A 1.5 million-year-old vertebra from a child was just pulled from the ground near the Sea of Galilee. This single bone rewrites what we thought we knew about human migration out of Africa. What archaeologists are discovering in Israel right now is forcing us to completely rebuild the timeline of human civilization, and what they found buried under a highway last year might be the most significant discovery of all. The land of Israel sits at the crossroads of 3 continents. Every empire that wanted to control the ancient world had to pass through here. That's why the ground beneath your feet in Jerusalem contains layer upon layer of human history, stacked like pages in a book. Archaeologists have been reading those pages for decades, but recent technological advances are revealing chapters we never knew existed. Let's start at the beginning, because the beginning just got pushed back further than anyone expected. Ubaidia, located in the Jordan Rift Valley near the Sea of Galilee, contains stone tools dating between 1.55 and 1.2 million years old. These aren't just any stone tools. They're Acheulean hand axes, the same type found in Africa. For years, scientists believed early humans took a northern route out of Africa through Europe. This discovery proved they were wrong. Our ancestors walked south through the Levant, and Israel was their gateway. The vertebra I mentioned earlier belonged to a child between 6 and 12 years old. Discovered in February 2022, it's the oldest evidence of ancient humans in the Middle East. Think about that for a second. 1.5 million years ago, a child walked through what would one day become Israel, died, and their bones waited in the ground until we developed the technology to understand what they meant. But here's where it gets stranger. Mount Carmel, just south of modern Haifa, contains caves that tell an even more complex story. Inside El Tabun and Es Skul, archaeologists found both Neanderthal and early modern human remains spanning 600,000 years of continuous habitation. That's not a typo. The same cave system was occupied for over 500,000 years, representing roughly 1 million years of human evolution in one location. What were they doing there for so long? The Natufian culture emerged around the 10th millennium BCE, and they did something revolutionary. They stopped moving. Sites like Nahal Oren and Gesher show the first evidence of agriculture in the region. Humans went from following their food to growing it. This wasn't just a change in diet, it was a complete transformation of human society. Permanent settlements meant specialized labor, which meant culture, which meant civilization. Fast forward to the Late Bronze Age, between 1550 and 1200 BCE. Egypt controlled this region through vassal states governing from Gaza. Canaanite cities like Hazor, Megiddo, and Beit Shean flourished under Egyptian oversight. Then everything collapsed. Urban centers were destroyed or abandoned. Egyptian control evaporated. Nobody knows exactly why, but the archaeological evidence is unmistakable. Civilizational collapse swept through the entire Middle East. Out of that chaos emerged something new. The Merneptah Stele, an Egyptian inscription from around 1208 BCE, contains the earliest known mention of Israel as a people, not a place, a people. The stele itself is a victory monument, and it lists Israel among the defeated enemies of Egypt. But here's what makes this fascinating. Archaeological evidence shows that Israelite culture evolved directly from Canaanite civilization. The people who became Israelites were living in Canaan all along. How do archaeologists know this? Pig bones. Stay with me here. Early Israelite settlements from the Iron Age show a complete absence of pig bones in their refuse piles. Every other group in the region ate pork. The Israelites didn't. This single dietary choice, visible in the archaeological record, marks the beginning of a distinct cultural identity. These early Israelites lived in small hilltop villages, populations rarely exceeding 300 or 400 people. They built 3- and 4-room houses from mud brick on stone foundations, clustered around common courtyards. They terraced hillsides for farming, planted crops, and tended orchards. The settlement pattern shows something remarkable: a proliferation of rural sites in the central mountain region, the Upper Galilee, and Gilead in Transjordan. People were spreading out, building communities, establishing an identity. Then came the kings. By the 10th century BCE, 2 kingdoms emerged: Israel in the north and Judah in the south. The Hebrew Bible claims they were once united under Saul, David, and Solomon. Archaeologists have argued about this for decades. Did the united monarchy actually exist? Those who think it did split into 2 camps: maximalists who accept the biblical accounts, and minimalists who argue any such kingdom was much smaller than described. Here's where new discoveries change everything. Researchers from the Weizmann Institute, working with archaeologists from the City of David site and Tel Aviv University, just produced a detailed chronology of Iron Age Jerusalem using advanced radiocarbon dating. They found concrete evidence of widespread habitation in Jerusalem dating back to the 12th century BCE. More importantly, they precisely dated westward expansion of the city to the 9th century BCE by determining when a large ancient building was constructed. This research proves settlement existed in the 12th through 10th centuries BCE, exactly when the Bible places David and Solomon. The city expanded westward by the 9th century BCE with extensive architectural projects throughout this period. Then came an earthquake in the mid-8th century BCE, followed by heavy fortification. The city flourished until the Babylonian destruction. But wait, there's physical evidence beyond pottery and foundations. In 1993 and 1994, archaeologists discovered fragments of a black basalt stele at Tel Dan in northern Israel. An Aramean king had erected it to commemorate his victory over ancient Hebrews. The inscription includes the letters Beit Vivdi in Hebrew, House of David. This is the first time David's name appeared at any archaeological site outside the Bible. Critics had long claimed David was mythological, a legend invented by later writers. The Tel Dan stele proved them wrong. David existed. His kingdom existed. The inscription dates to the 9th century BCE, just 1 century after David's supposed reign. Meanwhile, in Israel's southern Negev region, excavations at Timnah have been ongoing for over a decade. This area houses the world's earliest known copper mine. Recent findings show copper production peaked during the 10th century BCE, precisely when David and Solomon ruled according to biblical chronology. The evidence keeps stacking up, piece by piece, discovery by discovery, but we're just getting started because what archaeologists found near Megiddo last year is about to completely rewrite our understanding of ancient Israelite worship. In 2025, archaeologists working near Megiddo uncovered ritual vessels from 3,300 years ago during a highway excavation. But that's not the headline. They also found one of the oldest datable wine presses ever discovered in Israel, dating back 5,000 years. Why does this matter? Because it proves sophisticated agricultural practices existed in this region millennia before anyone thought possible. The wine press alone rewrites timelines, but those ritual vessels tell a different story. They're Canaanite cult objects, used for worship practices that predated Solomon's temple by centuries. And that brings us to something extraordinary. Last year, archaeologists uncovered what appears to be a second temple on the eastern slopes of the city of David, just a few hundred yards from the Temple Mount. For much of the First Temple period, roughly 1000 to 586 BCE, Solomon's temple wasn't the only place of worship in Jerusalem. This second temple measures approximately 220 square meters and contains 8 rock-hewn rooms. Inside, an altar, a standing stone called a maseba, an oil press, and a wine press. It's the only known ritual structure from this period in Jerusalem and one of the few discovered anywhere in Israel. The timing of its abandonment is fascinating. Around the 8th century BCE, this temple was deliberately shut down. That coincides perfectly with the reign of King Hezekiah, the ruler known for his radical religious reforms. The Bible says in 2 Kings that Hezekiah sought to establish the temple in Jerusalem as the central place of worship by dismantling smaller ritual sites scattered throughout his kingdom. Archaeological evidence just confirmed the biblical account. These weren't random closures, this was coordinated religious centralization, but here's what really shocked researchers. Excavations at Megiddo produced ceramic finds that provide the first evidence for Egyptian forces and Greek mercenaries stationed in the city at the time of King Josiah's death. The Bible describes Josiah's battle with Pharaoh Necho II in detail. Critics dismissed it as legend. Now we have pottery fragments, weapon remains, and fortification patterns that match the biblical timeline exactly. Josiah died around 609 BCE fighting Egyptian forces. The ceramics date to precisely that period. Meanwhile, on the Temple Mount itself, something unprecedented happened. Israeli archaeologists conducted limited scientific excavations in cooperation with the Islamic Waqf, the first of their kind since the British Mandate. They worked quietly, with minimal publicity, and uncovered the first tiny artifacts ever conclusively dated to the First Temple period. Olive pits, animal bones, pottery fragments, all dating between the 8th and 6th centuries BCE. These might sound insignificant, but they're revolutionary. For decades, critics claimed no archaeological evidence existed for the First Temple on the Temple Mount itself. That argument just collapsed. The Temple Mount sifting project added fuel to this fire back in 2006. They recovered numerous artifacts from soil the Islamic Waqf had removed in 1999 from Solomon's Stables area. Among the findings, stone weights for weighing silver and a First Temple period bulla, a seal impression containing ancient Hebrew writing. The seal includes the name Netanyahu ben Yaush. That exact name appears multiple times in the book of Jeremiah. Yaush also shows up in the Lachish letters, ancient correspondence from the final days before Babylon destroyed Jerusalem. The names match, the dates match, the locations match. But not everyone in ancient Israel remained faithful to these reforms. During Jeroboam II's reign from 788 to 747 BCE, Israel experienced renewed prosperity and reached its territorial peak. The kingdom controlled Samaria, Galilee, the Upper Jordan Valley, the Sharon, and large portions of Transjordan. Then Assyria resumed its expansion. King Pekah of Israel allied with Rezin of Aram Damascus and invaded Judah, attempting to replace King Ahaz with a ruler who would join their regional alliance against Assyria. Ahaz called for help. Tiglath-Pileser III responded with overwhelming force. In 733 to 732 BCE, Assyrian armies conquered Aram Damascus and seized northern Israel's territory, capturing Galilee, Gilead, and the northern coastal regions. They deported the Israelite population. Archaeological evidence confirms widespread destruction and significant depopulation in these areas. Later, Sargon II's records state he captured Samaria and deported 27,290 inhabitants to Mesopotamia. The Babylonian Chronicles and Hebrew Bible both viewed the fall of Israel as the defining event of his reign. The timeline keeps aligning, which brings us to something most people overlook: how archaeologists actually date these discoveries. Researchers from the Austrian Academy of Sciences recently published a new radiocarbon dataset for Tel Gezer in the journal PLOS One. Tel Gezer ranks among the most important Bronze and Iron Age sites in Israel. For the first time, scientists can check whether archaeological findings correspond to historical events from written sources. They used 103 carbon-14 measurements on samples from various contexts to reconstruct Jerusalem's urban history. Through wiggle matching against the calibration curve, they achieved decadal resolution, something normally impossible during the problematic 300-year-long Hallstatt Plateau. The results revealed fluctuations in carbon-14 concentration outside the calibration curve's ranges, verified by 100 calendar-dated tree rings. Translation: the dates are solid, the methodology is bulletproof. And December 2025 brought another breakthrough. Archaeologists finished excavating the most complete section ever discovered of the foundations of walls that surrounded Jerusalem during the Hasmonean Kingdom, when the Hanukkah story took place. This massive wall stood 30 feet tall and 15 feet wide. But here's the twist. Evidence suggests it was dismantled from the inside, possibly as part of a ceasefire agreement between King John Hyrcanus I and Antiochus VII around 132 to 133 BCE. They didn't conquer it, they negotiated its removal. In the Judean desert, excavators revealed a gigantic 2,200-year-old pyramidal monument from the Hellenistic period. The site yielded papyrus scrolls written in Greek, bronze coins from Ptolemaic rulers and Antiochus IV, weapons, wooden spoons, and textiles. Scholars previously believed this structure dated to the First Temple period. Recent discoveries proved it was built later, during Hellenistic times when Israel was under Ptolemaic rule. Even the Church of the Holy Sepulchre yielded surprises. Excavations revealed remains of olive trees and grapevines through archaeobotanical analysis from beneath the floor. Samples date to the pre-Christian era, indicating the area was once a garden. That affirms John's description of where Jesus was buried. Every shovel full of dirt, every pottery shard, every stone foundation tells the same story. The biblical accounts align with physical evidence more precisely than critics ever imagined possible. The timeline isn't myth, it's history, written in layers of earth and fragments of stone. From a child's vertebra buried for 1.5 million years to pottery fragments confirming biblical kings, every discovery reshapes what we thought we knew. The ground beneath Israel holds more secrets than we've uncovered, and each new excavation brings us closer to understanding not just where we came from, but who we've always been. The timeline continues to unfold, one artifact at a time.